Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to Bannerlord. Today we're going to be talking about the best factions for multiplayer in Bannerlord, if you ever get a game. So make sure to like and subscribe, and comment if you have something interesting to say, and yeah, so you can see more of these videos. So, what do I think is the best faction in the game for multiplayer? If I could pick, I would say it would be Khuzaits, just because they're so versatile. They have every single type of unit. They have horse archers, cav, ranged, and infantry. And none of their stuff is really that bad. I'd say if they're probably lacking on infantry, although their rabble has the largest army size in the game at 25 units, so that's pretty nice to know. But again, they are weak. I usually like to take sling along with some improved armor. So they just have their club, and then they have the sling for some light range damage to soften up some troops before they charge in. But yeah, they're definitely a meat shield, and they're definitely you should only use them if they're like taking shots. If you're attacking a really heavy unit of infantry, something like legionaries or maybe Oathsworn, yeah, it's not going to go well for you. But if you're doing something like flanking, taking shots for like a more elite unit, then Rabble's definitely good. Spear of Infantry, I'd say the only reason I would ever take them is if the enemy is taking a lot of ranged units, so maybe it's like Battania and they're taking a lot of Fions or Rangers. Then I would take these Spear Infantry. I would equip them with, I would say the Throwing Spear is really good, and then I would also say Stronger Shield, because look at that shield. That is a massive shield. It's going to be able to take up a lot of shots. Their range isn't too bad. Step bow, decent. They have a pretty large army size. I'd say Khan's Guard is better though. I would say Stronger Bow with extra arrows or strong arrows, but you definitely want a lot of ammo with them. They have a lot of armor. They have some pretty good speed and a lot of army size, so I really like the Khan's Guard, and I would take them over step bows unless it was a ranged v range fight, and then I'd take step bows just because they're a larger unit size. Their cav also isn't too bad. Nomads are okay, but actually I would say I would take Nomads over Lancers just because Lancers only have 8 units in their army. And I didn't realize this, but you can take bow and arrows with Lancers. Normally I usually just take improved armor and then a long lance, because I use them as melee cav. If I'm going to take ranged cav, then I would take the mounted archers, which is probably the best unit in the Khuzaits army. They have a pretty good bow. Their horse is amazing. They don't really have that much armor, but of course their bow is so good, and they can easily run away from a lot of units. And their army size is not that bad. 11 for the most elite unit in their faction is not too bad. The next faction that I would want to take in multiplayer would be Battania, because they have such a diverse infantry and range, just for the lack of cav and horse archers. Yeah, let's start off with their cav. It's pretty bad. I don't like taking mounted warriors. You're getting 13, which is pretty good for cav. I usually would take half barding and then improved armor, just to try to make them more durable. But yeah, I definitely don't really like them that much. Their Highland Spear is pretty decent, but I just feel like, their armor actually isn't bad if you improve it, but it's just really not for me. If you're not taking improved armor, then they're going to be super weak. I just don't really enjoy using them, and they just seem kind of weak and kind of off to me. But for their range, it's definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum. The Fions are so good. I really like Stronger Longbow and extra arrows. You could take strong arrows, but I just think having more is always better. You're getting a pretty small unit size, but these guys are super elite. With their longbow, they have great range and great damage, and have a lot of armor. I'm not even improving their armor at all. This is more than the base armor for this cavalry, and that's more than it's almost more than even if I improved it. So yeah, I would say the Fions are super good. Rangers are also pretty decent, but I almost always take Fions just because you're only losing 4 units to make them much better. It's not like Rangers are bad, but you see they're losing a lot of armor. They're only gaining 1 speed, so they're not really worth it for me. And of course I usually take extra arrows and a longbow. You could take the axe, but if I'm using these guys in melee, I'm not really worried about them doing damage. If they get caught out in melee, it's either my own fault because I didn't move them back from infantry, or I'm charging them in because they've used all their ammo. And the infantry on Battania is actually really good as well. Oathsworn is incredible. They have this nice shield. I normally take stronger shield and then improved armor, just because, you know, their Highland longsword is not bad at doing damage, and these guys have 55 armor, so they're going to be able to take a lot. They also have incredible movement speed, a lot of units in their troop, so they're definitely really good. Wildlings are also pretty good. I really like extra javelins, and then I normally actually take stronger shield here. But yeah, they have this short sword and their large shield, and then they can of course throw their javelins, which is amazing. They have a decent amount of armor. It's not as good as like the Oathsworn, but it's pretty decent. They have a lot of movement speed, and they have a lot of guys in their troop, so I really like the Wildlings. The Savage is also really good anti-infantry, which seems kind of odd. You're like, why would these guys be good against infantry? Well, you can give them improved armor, yeah, which gives them 12. So if you're not taking that, I don't take these guys without improved armor, because then they only have 3, which is really bad. They do have a little bit of extra health, but yeah, always take the armor. And then I really like light javelins. So why are these guys really good against infantry? Well, they can throw their light javelins, and then they can go in with their falcons, which is super good at armor piercing. So you're going to be able to do a lot of damage there. Has pretty good handling, a lot of damage, and a really large length. So you're going to be able to get into be able to hit them first, which, you know, may take out a unit or two, which is pretty good. Clan Warrior, I don't take these guys just because there's so much other infantry. If you're gonna take them as like a meat shield, so get them with improved armor, which buffs it to 24, and then with the Targe, so they can at least block a couple arrows. Their Highland longsword is decent, and then their Targe is pretty bad, but you know, whatever. They have 22 guys in their troop, so you know, right below the Khuzaits. So I would take these if and they also have decent movement speed, actually. I take these either, you know, like to flank, to take arrows, or maybe if you're also engaging with other lower level infantry for some reason. I don't know. They're not really my favorite. Next would be Vlandia, coming in at 3rd place, mostly because their cavalry is really good. I'd say Vanguard is really good. I would say Agile Horse, or maybe improved armor, and then a Lance is how I would take them. Just forego the shield and use armor instead. They have a decent amount in their troop, which is pretty good. Knights are also decent, but I don't know. I normally just take Vanguard because there's only 8 guys here. Large shield is pretty good. I normally like heavy lance with a faster horse, or maybe improved armor, which buffs it all the way to 50. So these guys are definitely good. You know, they're not terrible. The reason I like Vlandia is really because they have everything, basically, except mounted archers. Their infantry is pretty elite with the sergeants. Their range is also really good. I like sharpshooters a lot. I think their crossbows are really good. Yeah. Or even, you know, taking an arbalist instead of their crossbow, which is what I normally do. And of course, these guys. Peasant Levy. I don't like Peasant Levy. If I'm taking it again, we're going improved armor, small shield. I don't really take Volgear. I mean, they're pretty good. They have a pretty decent army size, but Sergeant has the same amount of army size, and they're much better, in my opinion. So next on my list, I would say it would be Empire. So you notice we do Khuzait, Battania, Vlandia, and then Empire. So these two are pretty heavily armored. Vlandia is pretty similar to Empire. I really like Empire cataphracts. I think they're really elite. Unfortunately, you know, they do have a smaller army size, but you know, you kind of have to miss some stuff. I don't like taking small shield just because not many units are going to reach them with like melee weapons, so the shield isn't going to be that effective. Most units are going to be hitting the horse. So I normally take heavy Kantos, and then I would use probably Agile Horse. That Bastard Axe isn't really that great. And then Charge Horse, you're not really going to do that much damage on your charge, so I'm not that worried about it. Corsairs, pretty good. They're definitely more lightly armored, but their Manavlion is really good. So I always take that, and then I normally take improved armor just to buff them to 25. Because Cataphract is super good because they have base 45, so you're not even going to have to buff their armor, and you can't actually, up to like 50 or whatever. The Palatine Guard is super good. I really like their crossbow, but I would also recommend taking either a stronger bow and then like a mace. I just don't find the polearm to be that effective. Maybe even like a small shield. You could do this upgrade isn't too important, but I wouldn't really take polearm. But you can do whatever. Archer Militia isn't that bad, but they're also not that good either. I don't really enjoy using them. I usually only take these guys if the enemy is also bringing a lot of range, so I can take down their range. But you see, they have no armor compared to base 26 on these guys, so not my favorite. So Legionaries, super good. I really like Legionaries. I normally take them with stronger shield and then improved armor. Say they have a Spatha, and then they have the Kite Shield. They're really good at taking arrows and just holding another infantry unit in place with their 16 army size, which is really good for an elite unit. Manavlion infantry is super good. I would either take light javelins or Pylum, and then heavy Manavlion is super good. Manavlions are just really good in general. They're just a polearm that you can swing around. Pretty sweet. Recruit, I wouldn't take these. They're on the upper echelon of crappy units. They only have 20 in their army size, but they're really fast. They have decent base armor, but again, I would normally take extra javelins and stronger shield, so kind of like the slingers with Khuzait and their rabble. So next, I would say would be Aserai. Sorry, Sturgia. I really like their Mamelukes. Base 32 armor is incredible. Only 8 in the army size is kind of rough. I normally take Barding and either heavy lance or a larger shield. Probably heavy lance here, although larger shield definitely isn't bad. Yeah, definitely really good. I'd say their shield is really nice. The heavy scimitar is also incredible. They have a heavy scimitar and a southern long spear, so having those two as base is amazing. Bedouin is also good, and I normally take Bedouin over Mamluk just because they're getting +5 units in their army, which usually guarantees more damage because you have more guys. I don't know. I like taking camels just because they're thematic. Probably the best one is probably taking improved armor because these Bedouins do have really light armor even with the armor increase. And then either longer shield or small shield javelins usually don't really work out for me. That's just my opinion though. So I really like veteran archers, and just the normal archer just isn't my favorite just because they have base 3 armor, and you're trying not to get your archers in an infantry fight, but if they do, these guys will be wiped out, or if they're going against other archers, they're going to be absolutely destroyed. So I'd say stronger bow, extra arrows for archers. Veteran, also the same thing. You could get extra armor on veterans, but I think 35 is definitely overkill for skirmish ranged unit. So guards, pretty good. I would always get improved armor because base 15 is not that good. I think this improves it to 24. And then throwing axes are also really good. So they have their Tabar, which is a pretty nice axe weapon, bardish weapon. I don't know how you would say it. And then you can also get the throwing axes just to soften up another infantry unit before attacking. These are definitely anti-infantry units. I'd say if you're going against lots of infantry, take the guard or the wildling for Battania. Where they? So Aserai, yes, skirmisher is also really good. I would say better javelins, and then the Jareed. I don't know how to say that actually, because these guys start with a really big shield, decent sword, and then they start with the Jareeds, and then they have 2 Jareeds, so they're gonna have 6 shots in total, which is really good, and they have 19 in their troops, so that's gonna be a lot of damage that you're gonna be dishing out. Tribal warrior, pretty good. almost 25, almost the max that you can get. I would always take them with improved armor, and then either the axe or the stronger shield. I normally do stronger shield if you're going against, you know, a lot of range. Say, like if you know the enemy's going to pick range, like you're going against Battania, I would take stronger shield. If it's more an infantry focused army, then like the Empire of Vlandia, maybe even Sturgia, then I would take axe just because it's better anti-infantry, and then they still get a round shield, so you know it's not too bad. So last on my list is Sturgia. These guys just are not that good in my opinion. We have the Druznik, I don't know how to say that, which is pretty decent. I would say you probably want to take Agile Horse or Barding, and then a heavier lance. And these guys actually aren't bad because they have the Cavalry Axe, then they have this pretty large shield without being buffed. It is worn though, and then their heavy lance, and then the Sturgian Hunter, which is a great horse. But they only have 8. But you know, these guys aren't bad. 38 base armor is definitely really good. Is that the highest starting armor in the game? Not sure. Raiders, I would never take Raiders. You're only getting 3 more in the troop. They're a little bit faster, and then their armor is just so much worse. I'd take improved armor, and then you could either take Kontos or shield. I actually wouldn't take shield because the shield is not very good. I think it's a worn. No, it's Northern Kite. But yeah, I would either take Kontos or maybe Throwing Spear. I just don't like throwing weapons on horses. So yeah, these guys are okay, but their armor is pretty weak, and they have a small unit size for being not that good. Hunter, definitely not a bad unit, but they suffer again from really low armor. They have a decent amount of army size, but if you have to take range, then these are the only guys you're going to be able to take. So yeah, I would always say extra arrows and a stronger bow. Now Varyag are really good. Yeah, sorry, Varyag are pretty good. They're not bad actually. I would normally take them with improved armor, and then probably either a long sword or a long shield. Actually, the Northern Heavy Axe is pretty good, so I may just take stronger shield. Save your Northern Heavy Axe and your large round shield, which is actually really good at blocking arrows, even though it's a round shield. And then your axe, of course, is super good. So actually, if you have to take infantry, I'd always take Varyag, and they actually have a really large army size. I wouldn't take Berserker. They only have 1 more in their army size, and they're not that good. Great Axe isn't terrible. I would take improved armor just because if you're not, they have 6 armor. That's like archer level, right? Or worse. Yeah, really bad. I would take either light javelins or throwing axes. You know, depending on the infantry has shield or not. So let's just say throwing axes. Because if you're not, then the enemy unit is not going to be softened up, and these guys are going to be pretty weak because, you know, they only have 15 armor with the improved armor buff. Although they do have the extra 10 hit points, but I'm not really sure how much that helps. Brigand, I don't know. I just don't find these guys as very good. Normally I use improved armor and then extra javelins. Javelins are just always a pick for me. They have better armor than the Berserker, but only... No, they have better armor by quite a bit. So, you know, they're definitely not bad. I forgot to mention these guys are definitely anti-infantry because they don't have a shield. So if you're taking these guys up against ranged units, it's gonna end really poorly for you. So with the Brigand, I would. Can you buff the shield? I would actually get the stronger shield just because. If you're gonna like the better axe, a worn kite shield is really poor. Only 80 durability, although it is really light, so you know. There are pros and cons. Either stronger shield or more armor. I don't know. Either one of those, and then extra javelins, of course. You know, 16 with javelins isn't too bad. Warriors. I think this is the smallest rabble troop in the game. At only 19. They have okay base armor, better than the Berserkers. I think, yeah, better than the Brigand as well, so they're not that bad in terms of armor. I would still go improved armor though, because 24 armor is never a bad thing. And then maybe a small shield would not be bad, because with their Wood Splitter Axe, you know, you're still getting a decent amount of attack. You could also get the Northern Sword. It just doesn't seem that powerful to me. You know, or the Mace. I would say probably the Mace if you're going against armored opponents. Axe for unarmored, but I would normally go improved armor, especially if the enemy has ranged. Or if you don't want to go with the small shield, two-handed axe is never bad as well. Northern two-handed axe, that's like berserker level almost, so definitely not a bad thing. So yeah, either one of those. So yeah, I hope you guys like this. You know, if you agree or disagree with this list, make sure to put it in the comments below. And we'll see you guys later. Adios.